we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassner coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Game Source, and of course the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Plus, if you could share, subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest PCC Multiverse, of course, State of Pro Wrestling, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and of course, all around the world on radio and everywhere we reach to you with all the best in pop culture news right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the legendary Xbox master of what's going on with everything E3, not E3, could be E3, should be E3, would be E3 if E3 didn't die, but E3 in still some sense is still here because they all want to debut and show off their games all at the same time anyways. It's a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out today at happyhoardercollectibles.com and Happy Hoarder Collectibles wherever you get your social media. Get your next collectible at Happy Hoarder. Of course, it is Josh Peterson. Josh the Great, what's up, man?
Hey, what is E3?
What is E3? The Electronic Entertainment Expo. That's gone the way of the dodo, my friend. What can I say?
Yeah, this is like hundreds of years from now, archaeologists are going to be like sifting through all this like computer data, and they're going to stumble upon E3 and be like, what was this? Apparently people used to gather and watch video game announcements.
And it's so funny because one by one, the major publishers, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, they left E3, which ultimately was E3's downfall. But Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, right around the beginning of June and early part of June, and all these publishers keep on making announcements. So it's like a force of habit. They're doing it anyways right around now.
We talked about that marketing, man. They found out it's probably cheaper and more profitable for them to do their own shows. And who needs E3 anymore? But for real, I will miss it. I remember our first time going to E3 was back in 2017, somewhere thereabouts, and
yes.
We rocked that floor, man. Felt like we walked for miles within that tiny, not tiny, but within that convention center.
Absolutely, I do miss it. Although it's funny because I didn't even tell you at the time we walked in the area that the Starship Troopers part of the movie was made there. So yeah, absolutely, it was kind of disappointing how we have not been able to see E3 continue on, but it lives on in memory and spirit with some of the publishers that are out there showcasing their wares. I know Melinda and I will probably get the back end of what's shown this week on the Friday show, but for now, it is Summer Games Fest. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff Keighley. Summer Game Fest.
Single game. Every year they announce one single game.
It's seemingly, because you cannot say Games Fest because he gives you the side eye if you do. But it is Summer Game Fest versus Sony State of Play versus the Xbox Showcase. Which was the best showcase? We will go ahead and talk about that and catch up because I have been away on vacation and I'm back now to go ahead and talk to pop culture with you. But I will also say that there's a good story coming out of the box office for once after a miserable May. We'll talk about that coming up on the show. Plus also Star Wars debuted its series, The Acolyte, to mixed reception. What's my reception after the first episode? I'll let you know that. Plus also as well, we'll be talking more video game television adaptations. We'll run them down real quickly. And while I'm still ticked off that a certain individual has not yet been confirmed as well. But first, my friend, I want to go ahead and get a couple things off my chest that happened recently in the past week. One good, what not so good. Ask which one's first, my friend. Do you want the good or the not so good?
I want the bad news first because it makes the good news feel better.
All right. I'll tell you what, man. What is ticking me off, which is something I did tell you, I kind of hinted, they even kind of hinted, a television show, which I am currently saying as of now, although check me back in 6 months, is the best television show of the year. And that is Tokyo Vice on HBO and Max, which absolutely ended the second season on a strong note. The season throughout is, again, one of the best on television out there. And of course, Max rewards it by canceling it on Friday. We heard the news. Now, Tokyo Vice, the producers behind it, said there's more stories that they'd like to tell. And supposedly they're going to find the outlet. But we always hear that, my friend. And only on so many occasions do these shows find a new home and are still able to go ahead and continue on. That's, I know, a rarity these days and ages. But again, Josh, I hope you will consider catching up with Tokyo Vice. I'm hoping that'll actually end up on Netflix so people can see it, a larger audience can see it. I can just see the decisions that are being made, why Max is an afterthought in the streaming service and why Netflix is still number one. And we'll go into detail why with the good news, why that is.
It's funny. It's like anytime someone goes from a non-Netflix platform and they say, "Hey, we're going to take this show, we're going to shop it around elsewhere," it usually means they're going to go to Netflix with it. And if Netflix says no to it, then that's when you know the show is officially dead. So it's because remember, what was it Warrior, that show written by Jonathan Tropper about the
Bruce, it was a tale from Bruce Lee, I believe.
right.
Correct.
Yeah. So that one was on Showtime, and then it went over to Max, and then Max didn't want to renew it, and then it moved over to Netflix. And allegedly they're getting a chance to do a final season with Netflix. So Netflix is kind of where people go for a second chance at life with their shows. So hopefully it does. And but if not, that's Netflix is like that step before the grave.
Well, I told you one of the reasons why I think it's the best show of the year is because they closed out their 2-season arc on a finality, on a final note. They stuck the landing on it. But at the same time, they didn't shoehorn, but they kind of left a door open for more adventures if the opportunity would arise with a third season or more, or a special or a movie or something like that. So they left the door open, but they actually did a great job of sticking the landing and finishing the 2-season arc, actually, which is presented to you in the first minutes of the first episode. They go ahead and circle back to it and do a great job of doing so during the course of the 2 seasons. So again, if they don't continue it, I'm fine with it because they did stick the landing. But it's just a shame that quality work like this never gets a chance to flourish. They were never promoted well by HBO Max during the entire run of its series, and even less so in its second season. I know a lot of people are talking about the Lakers show that was done, Winning Time, that was not given its proper due in its second season, which was the reason why it got canceled. So it seems like it's a continuing theme how Max, if it's not Game of Thrones related, it just doesn't do a great job of promoting its products after its initial seasons.
Yeah, I have noticed that too. Yeah, with like Game of Thrones too. Like it was not greatly advertised during the first season, but as it started to do well, it started to get more and more, advertising. But yeah, with
House of the Dragon, they will have no problems throwing
yeah.
out all the advertising dollars on it. But a show like Tokyo Vice, can't be promoting that. That's too good.
It's funny because there are a lot of other shows on there that are really great that are not getting any advertising either. You wouldn't even
or
know
they got canceled recently as well.
Canceled. Yeah, you wouldn't even know that they were on there if not for people recommending that you go and watch these shows. And that is truly a shame. And it makes you, if you're a showrunner or you have someone that wrote a script for a show, it just makes you think to yourself, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't go to Warner Brothers with my script because they might not have its best interest at heart.
No. And after some of the shows that have recently gotten canceled, that at Max. It just some of them were actually pretty good shows to watch, and unfortunately, just were not given the chance to grow and flourish like Tokyo Vice. This one it hurts me a lot because again, it's quality stuff that they don't have a good job in replacing. But we'll see. We'll see if it does find a new life somewhere else. But if you have any thoughts on the cancellation of Tokyo Vice, what I consider right now to be the best show of the year, please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we hit the breaks, my friend, before we hit the break, I want to ask you this. Was it a good move? Speaking of something that didn't get advertised, but just got dropped on Netflix, one of the best movies of last year and the winner of the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects for a movie that was made for under $20 million, but you couldn't tell by some of the great special effects in it, Godzilla Minus One. So tell me your thoughts. Godzilla Minus One got dropped on Netflix. It is now one of the top 10 movies now being watched right now. It is garnering all the praise and all the audience that it deserved in its limited release pattern over the course of the past few months. Your thoughts on Godzilla Minus One? It was rumored that it was not going to be able to be played for a long time because of the fact in certain areas where it can and cannot be displayed, after a theatrical run. But it got to streaming. Netflix got it, and we're now the benefactors of it. I just finished watching it today, and I will tell you, it is worth the watch.
Yeah, I sat down and watched it too, and I really enjoyed it. And I know there's supposed to be a black and white. It's called the Godzilla Minus Color cut coming out too on Netflix. So that,
nice.
Yeah, that'll probably be pretty cool. But yeah, I watched it and I was pleasantly surprised. It was weird to me, like sitting there watching Godzilla actually trying to wreck everything instead of going after something else or trying to help people. Because I gotten so used to that in the the not Universal, but the Legendary Pictures Godzilla run.
Yeah, it goes back. It dates back to the Godzilla films I remember watching as a kid. The original Godzilla films.
Yeah, because I remember the only other one of those that I saw was Godzilla 2000. That came out shortly after the Matthew Broderick movie, but Godzilla 2000 was in theaters. I got to see that as a kid. And yes, Godzilla is just like wrecking, Japan or whatever Tokyo, whatever city they were in. But anyways, yeah, this movie is really great. It's really well done. The practical effects are amazing on this because you can tell, like, yes, Godzilla moves like a person in a suit, but they did such a good job of animating the different features on Godzilla that it just everything looks so natural, and it is incredibly cool to watch.
It is, and I'm very happy for everyone out there that they're getting a chance to see it because it was in limited release for everyone out there. So people didn't get a chance to see it. It was a pretty good hit for what you would say would be an indie-like film as far as that's concerned. So it did make a headway a little bit here in the States, and of course did win the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. It was a tremendous hit in Japan, and now is a tremendous hit worldwide on Netflix. And I will tell you what, it is definitely worth the watch. So I'm hoping that you out there will get the chance to see it. And like Josh says, maybe the black and white version, get a chance to catch that because it is really worth your time. And who knows, with the way the ending sets itself up, like every other Godzilla movie, Josh, we may see more in the realm of Godzilla Minus One.
There's always a city to destroy, and as long as there are cities, there will be another Godzilla movie.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, it's great to have everyone here, but if you want to go ahead and make sure you let us know your thoughts on Netflix's stealth releasing of Godzilla Minus One. We had no idea they did no prep for him, and I guess this case with Netflix's 260 million subscriber base, they really didn't need to in this case outside of Max. God forbid that they do have different ways they should approach these things as far as what they need to push and what they need to advertise and what they don't. But we've got a success story in Godzilla 1, and hopefully someday an extension of a success story with Tokyo Vice. But please let us know your thoughts on these streaming options that are available out there. Have you checked out Tokyo Vice on Max? And have you checked out Godzilla 1 on Netflix. Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. My friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's show. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you one more time with the fourth installment of Bad Boys for Life? It's now in the theaters, and we're gonna face the franchise with this one because it did well, Josh. Not really well, but much better than what Sony was predicting. They've got about $56 million domestically and over $100 million worldwide. That is off to a decent start. In the realm and annals of Bad Boys, it will probably finish maybe second, most likely second or third, probably in the high 200, maybe even $300 million worldwide. It'll probably fall short of the one that came out in 2020, but it shows, like you were talking about, how this series, this IP, still has some life in it just yet.
Yeah, that was actually really surprising to hear that it did that well. Because the last one, what was it? Bad Boys.
Bad Boys for Life.
Is that what the last one was
Yes,
called?
this is Ride or Die.
Ride or
Although I have a feeling that they can't die, and because they got to continue writing after $100 million opening, and Sony's going to say, "Bad Boys, what you gonna do?"
Yeah, because the last one ended in a way where you thought there wasn't going to be another one, but I mean, people still love the pairing of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. So I guess as long as they're still spry enough to do films like this, and sure, like just just keep it going.
So I ask you, my friend, I think this gets into a little bit of what people have been talking about, and that is that if this is the case and this is going to be end up being I don't want to say hit, but something that has done better than what many have projected to be, is this the beginnings of a comeback for Will Smith? We obviously know what he did during the Academy Awards a couple of years ago and how that kind of sent his career in a little bit of a different direction. And I know it was all the talk, but time, especially in our society, has a way of distancing people, as far as their opinions from what they once were to what they are now. And now it seems to be that, it's okay to watch a Will Smith movie, the cancellation or whatever he might have had for what he did, as far as with the slap with Chris Rock, seems to be now clearly in the rearview mirror. Does this start the progression forward for Will Smith? I'm not asking you if it starts the Will Smith to what we saw in the late 90s when he was the king of the box office. I'm just asking you, is this a progression and is this a step forward in his career once again?
It's hard to say. I didn't actually notice his career fall off after he slapped Chris Rock. I just know that everyone's talking about, like, there's some people saying he's justified, some people saying he wasn't. But I guess, like, I always enjoyed Will Smith, and I think that he he kind of blew up a little. What am I trying to say? Like, he was one of those. He has a family that's they're all Hollywood. They're all in the spotlight. So I imagine life's a little more difficult for him than most celebrities. But yeah, I mean, sure. I don't see why he wouldn't be in more movies moving forward, because I know they're doing a sequel to I Am Legend. It'd be really cool to see him back in the Men in Black franchise. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, does he have any life in him beyond sequels? That's a whole other story in itself. But yeah, I definitely think that as long as there's power in a lot of these franchises that he's been a part of, that there's a definite desire for him. I would have loved to see him. I know they kind of wrote him off, but like, it would have been cool to see him back in the Independence Day franchise, but they didn't want to wait for his filming schedule.
If you remember seeing that film like I do, maybe that's not the worst idea, him not being in that movie.
Yeah, but something tells me it could have been better if he were in it.
Well, it'd have to have been a lot better just to make it acceptable. That was a pretty bad film. I'll leave it at that.
It wasn't great, but I feel like there could have been something more mined out of it with him.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I will give you that, my friend, on how bad it was. But I will tell you, it is going to be something to see if Bad Boys, Ride or Die, will die at the box office next week. Obviously, it's not always the first week, but sometimes it's the second week that can really tell the true story of whether or not a film will have long legs or success at the box office. So we'll see what happens if it does ride next week or die. We'll find out, but I have a feeling it's going to do decent. And I think that's a good step in the right direction. And of course, with Michael B. Jordan and him filming the next I Am Legend movie. That's probably going to come out sometime next year. Definitely looking forward to seeing if he can go ahead and resurrect his career, off the back of all the movies that he's done before. So yeah, we'll see what happens for Will Smith. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts out there, but please let us know your thoughts on Bad Boys, Ride or Die. Let us know your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But to finish off facing the franchise, again, a lot of people have accused this series of being a little bit one note in regards to it. But like you said, you've been surprised by the way that these movies have earned more and more money. Now, mind you, with inflation, the 1995 Bad Boys may end up being the most successful of the four movies, and Bad Boys 2 obviously looks a lot better if that's the case. But I think that, if it does earn over $300 million, I think that Sony can consider itself very fortunate to see that this movie made that kind of money. But yeah, it just shows to me, I think that there could be a fifth one at some point in time.
Yeah, it's funny. So you look at it, what is it that drives people to see these movies? I think it's because we don't have a lot of action comedies anymore. Like there's no more Lethal Weapons, there's no more Rush Hour movies. Bad Boys is kind of the end of a lost generation of films, and because you look at like the characters don't really develop. Like Bad Boys 1, there's Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 2. These characters are getting older, they're kind of exploring what that looks like, but for the most part the movie is just like, it's what do you call it, like bickering back and forth and gunfights with drug dealers. So I think that and people enjoy that, right? They enjoy those popcorn flicks. So I think that's what is putting so much gas in this tank, and in a time when there aren't really a lot of things coming out that are like that.
Well, again, if it's something where there is going to be a little bit of life left in this series, I think they will go ahead and do one more. If writing yourself into a corner is really hard to do in Hollywood. It always seems like something happened. In fact, if you remember watching Godzilla Minus One, it looked like they had written themselves in the corner because the plot, as far as the main heroine in the story and the love interest, what happens to her in that movie, you thought, okay, it's a done deal. But as my wife told me, come on, Gerald, they're not going to kill her off. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. And sure enough, at the end of the movie, there she is. Spoilers. So
Everybody loves that happy ending, man.
yeah, they had to put that happy ending. It would have been more bold if they did just, well, first of all, I will go into that scene. Okay, it's because it's not a huge part of what goes on in Godzilla Minus One, but the developing love story between the two strangers who ended up, being forced together during because of terrible circumstances. I love the fact that it shows a different side of the world, and a world that we as Americans really have never seen before, and that's how the Japanese were trying to survive after World War II. And these two were thrown together because of the circumstances. They started having feelings for each other. And then Godzilla comes into the fray. And just as he's starting to get his life back, the hero, the girl that he likes, the girl saves him, pushes him. She could have just grabbed him and gone into the alley before Godzilla did the damage on all of them and seemingly killed her off. Am I not correct on that?
Oh, you definitely were. They were looking to create some suspense.
Exactly. It was a plot point, of course. And
It,
that's
it,
my wife wouldn't let me live that down. I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, but anyways, of course she's gonna make it back, and she
Uh,
did. So
yeah. I will say that I did like the concept of exploring the psyche of a terrified kamikaze pilot. Like, I think that that was a
yes,
really,
P-
really cool
and
idea.
it really touched on PTSD.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And the decisions that he had to make, and now getting the opportunity to sacrifice his life again uh, for the good of his country, in this case from Godzilla, I think was, again, extremely profound. Godzilla Minus One, I know we went back to, but please watch on Netflix if you can. But before we head on out, my friend, the Bad Boys franchise, absolutely going to go ahead, I think, and do one more, the green light one more, because it is now closing in on $1 billion franchise. But speaking of $1 billion franchise, before we head to the break, The Acolyte debuted last week on Disney Plus. It has garnered and earned mixed results. I have my review of it. I'll keep it vague as I can. Deals, it's the High Republic about 100 years before the Empire comes about, and it just, or basically, decades before the actual prequels began. And all I will say, Josh, is it's not terrible, but it does give me those bad prequel vibes. And you know me, I'm not a big fan of the prequels at all. Uh, and the fact that they killed off essentially one of the coolest characters I was really going to get into, and then the first 5 minutes, I was not exactly thrilled about. R.I.P. Trinity. If you are into Matrix, you know what I mean. But your thoughts on the Acolyte, on what you would want to see from it? I will tell you right now that it's okay. It's, again, not to me at the level of Andor. Nothing, it has been close in the past 30 years to Andor, to be quite honest with you, in the Star Wars realm. But I watch it all, or at least a good part of it, as much as I can, until I got to the, certain Star Wars, as far as the Clone Wars and all that. Then I just really got it kind of checked out. But I got back into the Star Wars again, trying to find my love of Star Wars. This doesn't, I guess, renew your love for Star Wars, but maybe you'll find some interest in it because it deals with a different part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, so they did go really, really far back, and that's the one thing that did make me interested in this show. But I gotta be honest, man, like the comments being made by Kathleen Kennedy and the showrunner, they're it feels like they're purposely trying to like be polarizing, and they could just as well just not say anything and just let the story be what it is organically. But it feels like they're trying to isolate like all different types of Star Wars fans. So that's what has given me pause about this whole, Acolyte thing. Do I really want to watch this or don't I? But at the end of the day, I do want to sit down and watch it. I wish that Star Wars would just be Star Wars. Just let people, character, representation is fine. Just let things happen organically. You don't have to get out there and try to make fans of like all different sides of the aisle like feel like they don't belong in Star Wars anymore. It's I don't know. I don't know. That's it's the social messaging is seems like it could be handled a little better.
All I will say is this: I think that Star Wars. I do like the fact that they're doing the Ahsoka, as far as all the stuff down the line. Mandalorian. They're going to have those one, the movie down the line, for big screen. It was all those series that are okay to watch. The Mandalorian. At times, we've really praised the Mandalorian. It has been really good, and sometimes, like this past season, it hasn't always been. But it's going to lead to a big movie here in the end. That's great. But I think Star Wars won't really thrive to everyone until it goes into a galaxy far, far away from the galaxy it is now, which is a far,
Right.
far away.
Oh,
We've
I
talked about that.
absolutely agree with you on that. Yeah,
It
like
needs to get rid, it needs to ditch the Skywalker era. It needs to ditch that extension of
yeah.
that character.
Go to a new place, go to a new galaxy, new timeline, create brand new
Fresh.
characters, fresh. That way you get rid of all this, like, what do you call, like, vitriol that's online between people who are, the purists and the casual fans and the people who are just hopping on. Like, put everybody on the same playing field and just create a story and let it expand organically from there. There's no need to keep on like hammering on old stuff, changing old timelines, changing characters. Just let it be, let it grow, make something new. And I think that could probably make people happy.
I think it would make a lot of people happier. I mean, if that's the case, just start something fresh, create the characters you want to create. That's fine, but make it just leave all the ties away from what it once was. And I think that would probably serve this Star Wars universe best if they created a whole new Star Wars away from the Star Wars they have now. That's just my opinion.
No, yeah, absolutely. Because think about it though, too. Like, we're as kids growing up, like, Star Wars is kind of it's a rite of passage in a way. Like, every kid grows up on Star Wars of some type. Like, why are we still putting kids on the Star Wars of our parents' generation? Like, of their parents' generation, let create a new Star Wars that's going to keep a new generation of kids interested, a new generation of Jedi Knights. Let this era go.
Exactly. So, what are your thoughts out there on the first episode or episodes of The Acolyte? Please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. I want to ask you, were you ready for some video games at E3? Not E3, should be E3, could be E3, but it is an E3, and that's a big bummer that it is an E3 because it should be E3 during this E3 process.
Sorry, my kid's like crying in the crib, so I'm trying to make sure it's not like hysterical. She's not hysterical. Sorry. Yeah, I've been out of town this week, so I didn't get a chance to catch the Summer Games thing, but I did see some of the announcements. I think that Horizon was kind of a weird game to be Legoed. Where are you standing on that one?
Yeah, we were going to go into it right now. We're going to go into it as far as Summer Game Fest versus State of Play versus Xbox Showcase. So let's. I know that the Lego announcement was made during Summer Game Fest. So I'm going to get your thoughts first on the first one that came out that we really didn't get a chance to cover, and that was Sony State of Play. Not a whole lot put out there. I do know that they have, some things that are coming down the line. Your thoughts on how they present themselves? This is a bad year for PlayStation. They're trying to get around the fact that it is, but it is a bad year right now. Concord, which is going to be their, next in line of third-party PC PlayStation games, kind of in the vein of Overwatch. That's coming out here later this year on August 23rd. And then, of course, the only really true PlayStation game that's going to come out for the rest of the year was the Astrobot game in full. I mean, there's remakes on the way, Silent Hill 2, Until Dawn. Some of that stuff is coming out later this year. That's great and all, but the God of War Ragnarok PC drop, but you'll still need to link yourself to a PlayStation account, which is stupid. But your thoughts on the Sony State of Play? It just, like I said, it's very thinly veiled that they really don't have much to offer to you, the consumer, 2024 at all.
Yeah, it was it wasn't terrible in my opinion, but it wasn't great. Like, they advertised God of War on PC like it was a brand new game. We didn't need to walk down that aisle again. Yeah, it's great. It's coming out on PC, but they were advertising it like this was the first time we'd seen a God of War trailer, and they kind of wasted some time on that. There's a couple, the RPGs they show are pretty cool. I love how both Sony and Microsoft are now mining properties out of China, which is cool because there's a lot of. The only thing that got released in America that were big were the Sword and Fairy franchise, and there was one more whose name I can't quite remember right now. But yeah, what did you think of the Silent Hill 2 remake?
okay, again, they're bound to go down that road, and you're going to see a lot of stuff remade. The Until Dawn remake was the one where I was saying, man, that was just not why,
Necessary. Yeah,
why.
I agree.
I just don't get it. I mean, you have it, you're just going to do a nice little paint job on it, and that's pretty much it. It's like frustrating. It is frustrating to see Sony not having anything prepared outside of Astrobot. And Astrobot was, the original Astrobot game was a throw-in with the PlayStation 5 to really, it's a glorified tech test to show you,
It's
and
a showcase.
yeah, it's a showcase of what all the things that the controller can do. This is a larger extension of that, built into a nice platforming game. It really looks like kind of fun, but that's building your entire future of 2024 around that. And it tells me if the PlayStation 5 continues to dominate the numbers for the rest of the year, and they have literally very little to showcase with it of their own, that's I don't know. That just tells you right where we are in the video game world, my friend.
I remember they said we're not going to see any like glimpses of AAA titles or sorry, first party titles until 2025. So that might be why, and this might be some stuff they've been sitting on. But yeah, I mean the Astrobot game looks great, and they're still really pushing the PSVR, which is not doing great from what I
PSVR
understand.
2,
Yeah,
yes.
PSVR 2, which is not doing great. I know it had a price drop recently. Um, Sony's really if because they're like they keep pumping money into this thing, they must really believe in the future of VR. Like it's pretty crazy. But yeah, not a terrible conference, but definitely not a great conference.
So what happened after that a few days later was Jeff Keighley, one of the major video game entertainers out there, and personalities in the industry, came up with his Summer Games Fest. That came up next, and it wasn't the greatest Summer's Games Fest. There's a ton of games there, but a lot of it were smaller games that will probably get swept under the rug, as you and I have seen so many indie games that we love playing, but we see so many times that other indie games that developers that work so hard on their products, that get swept under the rug. We've been to E3 where we've tried many of them out that have just been, it's like a wasteland of indie games sometimes when it gets out there. But there was some games that looked Civilization 7, but Lego Horizon Adventures, I think, was probably the one that you want to talk about the most. But I'm just going to say this again: Lego Horizon Adventures, okay, that's why it's going to be an exclusive when it comes out in PlayStation 5. It's, of course, because they're relating to the Horizon world. But I don't know if Horizon is big enough to be supported like that. Maybe their numbers dictate otherwise, but I mean, we've had a regular game in the series, we've had a sequel, we've had a PSVR game, we've had DLC for Horizon, all within the past decade, and now we're going to have a Lego game based off it as well. So I guess, I mean, at the very least, you could say that it's an IP that has been well supported in recent times, Josh. There's no neglect there.
Yeah, it definitely has. It's still got. If you played to the end of Horizon 2, like there's still a lot of story planned, and they're doing a great job keeping people captivated into that world. But yeah, it just seemed weird that they Legoed this, and I think it's because they have they have the Lego set of the whatever the long neck machine thing is. But yeah, it's definitely wouldn't have been my first choice for a Lego version of a PlayStation game.
Okay. Well, if that's the
Um,
case, I I don't know. Again, Summer Games Fest. Again, a lot of chance and for a lot of indie developers, it is their chance to shine, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. So to Jeff Keighley,
yeah.
that's great. But he clearly prioritizes the video game awards, and has to, because it has a much larger audience,
Mhm.
and that's when the big guns start to shine out there. So I will be glad to see Summer Games Fest at some point in time get some type of pub, or if it evolves back into E3 all over again. I'm thinking that at some point in time, people will just get frustrated and just cry out for E3.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
I will say, was really excited about that Power Rangers game. Like that took me back to the old Sega Genesis games, the Rita's Rewind. Like that looks really cool.
And TMNT, they had a TMNT arcade, another arcader coming up as far as that's concerned. So yeah, they did have some smaller kind of cool announcements, and that'll be seeing over the course of the next few months, but no real heavyweights. And I think that's what eluded Summer Games Fest. A lot of cool, but nothing like got the whole crowd or the whole audience energized into seeing something huge that might be debuting in the near future.
Yeah, I was expecting something big. I mean, they it seems like Summer Games Fest is like the least exciting of the three that show. I know, and I think Ubisoft's doing something tomorrow, but it's definitely not that exciting. You get to see some DLCs drop and some indie games come out, but there's nothing that's really massive. You know, I think the biggest announcement they ever made was like a Borderland, the Tiny Tina game. You know, everyone was really on top of that one, but I don't ever look forward to watching Summer Game Fest. And it's for that very reason. It feels like a waste of time to me.
I'll tell you what, though, I think that it is cool, again, for some of these smaller manufacturers, some of these smaller developers are able to go ahead and get some of the spotlight, and I'm wishing them all success. I know one individual, my co-host, Joe Soro on the Lakers Fast Break, he is financing a game that's under development, and he was there this past weekend at Summer's Games Fest. And so I'm Summer Game Fest, as Joe would tell you, and so would Jeff Keighley. But I will say that I'm wishing his game that he's currently helping to finance success, which is called Corrupt, and all these other smaller games. So if you have thoughts on the Summer Game Fest, see, I can't just rename it the Games Fest, gosh darn it. But all right, Summer Game Fest.
It's because people usually only play one of the games that are announced during Summer Game Fest.
Exactly. So Summer Game Fest or Sony State of Play. Please let us know your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head to the break and our talk after it in regards to the Xbox showcase, because that I wanted to leave into a segment in and of itself. Yakuza, Tomb Raider, or Yakuza Like a Dragon, Tomb Raider, and Among Us all showcase television properties that are coming later this year to streaming outlets. Great. Love it. That's awesome. Probably catch them at least two of the three, if not all of them. Why is the Mass Effect still on that list?
I don't think you want an anime. I think because they're animated, right? The three things.
Yakuza, I think, is live. It's going to be coming to Amazon.
Because I know Tomb Raider's animated. I'm sure Among Us is animated because you won't be able to do a live action of that one. But yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I think Mass Effect, if it were announced, like it wouldn't be during like a Summer Game Fest type thing. I think it would have its own like on N7 day or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to see something like that happen. Will it ever? We'll have to wait and see. Let's wait and see. Like if Warhammer does good or well, sorry, if Warhammer does well and Henry Cavill is still interested, you know, that could be something cool.
We'll find out. But again, there was some announcements and you get some footage out there, and I put links in Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. So if you want to go ahead and get started and catch up on what happened at Sony State of Play, the Summer Games Fest, Gerald, Game Fest, Summer Game Fest, and also as well Xbox Showcase. It's right there for you, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. And also, if you have any questions, please let us know, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head on out, I did want to set this part of the show to, and I'm going to say it, in this generation, I'm clearly leaned Xbox. I was trying to keep myself neutral for a long time. At the start of our show, when we did it in 2016, I clearly said to myself, I was on trying to be as best I can Switzerland. But over the years, I kind of said the product itself for a person on a budget would probably be better set for buying an Xbox. It probably provides the best value for anyone out there that's interested in getting into video games. better than Nintendo, better than Sony, and the only thing that was evading it was the ability for them to bring out properties and first-party games that would connect with a larger audience. But it had the Games Pass where you have over 100 titles at your leisure for one monthly price. I think it's still the best deal out there in video games. Now, finally, Xbox came out with a showcase earlier this year that was really good, started getting things in the right direction. Then they had their layoffs and their issues there. They finally did close the Activision deal and now have confirmed in recent weeks Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be coming to Xbox Game Pass. I think it's a great idea. So your thoughts, my friend, when you saw what you saw today, which included the Xbox Game Showcase, which did have a heavyweight list. This was Xbox showing off its load. Just basically just giving you the knockout. It's going for the knockout. It's doing the best it can. It's trying its last reach as a console maker per se. I don't know if it's its last reach, but certainly it's comeback story it really wants you to tell, because it came out with some heavyweights, my friend. The only thing it didn't come out with was Halo, which is kind of surprising. Something Halo-ish I thought would be included on it. But my friend, when you put out the heavyweights like this, Gears, Fable, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, you had Starfield, you had a ton of stuff that was mentioned in today's showcase, which we'll get into in a minute. What does that tell you as an Xbox game owner? Does it give you a sense of relief that there are some really good things heading on the way to your Xbox real soon?
No, absolutely. No, it doesn't. Like I'll be honest with you. Like I thought the showcase was great. I thought it was very, very well done. I thought the organization was a little chaotic because it kept jumping around, from Bethesda, then back to Bethesda, and blah blah. But if you look at it, like they put years on it for releases, but they did not put specific release dates. So I guarantee you 80% of these games are going to get pushed. And that's that's being a little liberal with it. But so it doesn't it doesn't make me feel confident. It makes me feel good that good stuff is coming out, but it doesn't make me feel confident that we're going to see it soon. We're gonna have this thing like with Hellblade. We're just like, hey, we have this, and then year after year, they're gonna be talking about like Gears. E-Day didn't even get a year. They just showed us the trailer for it, and like, okay, well, this is coming. So it could be, 2026 at the earliest before we see that game. But going down the looking at this list of games that came out here, yeah, there are a lot of great things. Like Doom the Dark Ages looks great. Dragon Age, like, did you see the okay, so what are your thoughts on that trailer? Like, it seems like it's not the Dragon Age that everybody knows and loves.
Well, it's a 10-year-old game, though. That's the problem. Inquisition came out 10 years ago. So this looks to be based more off of stuff or things that have made EA successful in recent years. So that's probably why you may or may not be liking the changes that were made. And I can't say I blame you a bit. But when Dragon Age The Veilguard comes out, I'm hoping that, again, they understand that Inquisition at the time was the game of the year. And I'm hoping that they understand that they deviate too far from that. It will not be regarded very highly, and it'll be another miss by BioWare if they did.
Yeah, they're on really shaky ground with the fans. But I watched this trailer again. Love the Xbox showcase. Like I think it wins this year's showcases for sure. But there's a lot of there's a few missteps. All right, and Dragon Age is definitely one of them. I look at this and I think to myself, like, dang, like this is why does everything have to be Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, Concord, the one from PS5.
Yeah.
That's a Guardians of the Galaxy clone, and that's what it's getting raked over the coals for being like that. And that's one thing there. But you're right, they all want to have that cool retro-ish comedic vibe set in space, and have all that vibe with it because of how successful the Guardians of the Galaxy for series was for Marvel. But to recreate that or copy that is
It's
really not wise.
Yeah, it's not Dragon Age though. Dragon Age is a very dark world. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful world. It's very dark.
But they all want that snippy repartee between each other or snarky back and forth. They think that that always has to take place within the confines of a group setting now.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, I think it's a very very dangerous play with Dragon Age. What did you think of Expedition 33 though? Like that looked watching the gameplay mechanics in that where you have to like match up the combos, like that looked really really cool.
That did. I don't know about the name per se is great. I know that Microsoft and other game companies are all about SEOs, so I don't know
Mhm.
if that game title will stay the way it is. Because
Yeah.
first of all, that's not the easiest to remember. It doesn't roll off the tongue real quickly, but okay. But I think that the gameplay maybe was what will make it stand out, which is what it's all about. Claire obscure, but it's not obscure; it's obscure.
Yeah. Yep.
Expedition 33. Yeah, man, I'm just not sure. I'm digging that title, but we'll see. We'll see. South of Midnight to me seemed interesting, and
Oh my gosh, it looks like a really cool game. The only thing that worries me about this is that it was made by the same people that made We Happy Few. Remember, and
mhm.
everyone was really stoked about that game when it came out and ended up not being good at all. So I'm really hoping that they don't drop the ball on this one because it actually does look really neat.
Yeah, I really like the way it presents itself. So I'm hoping that will be something we're going to see. Perfect Dark was finally shown off to the world. I think that it has a lot of Mirror's Edge vibes,
Mhm.
so to speak. But your thoughts on Perfect Dark, my friend?
Hopefully, it doesn't have the Mirror's Edge fall
Success,
not yeah,
sales
the
ratio,
success,
yeah.
yeah. No, this game has been rumored for a long time. It's being put together by this, like, quadruple A studio. It's supposed to be one of the most expensive video games ever made, on the Xbox platform. So I it looks stunning, absolutely stunning. Like, I like that they showed this cinematic, but they also showed a little bit of, gameplay inside of that cinematic. So that was cool. But yeah, this game looks really really great, and I love that they're doing game day one on Games Pass. I don't know when it was scheduled to come out, but
Dying Light, it has the feel and the movement of that, but
mhm,
yeah, it looks really good,
yeah.
man. It looks really good. I was really impressed by that. Um, of course, we'll get into Gears here before we head on out and all that. But before we do, I wanted to ask your thoughts on this real quickly. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. It comes out next month.
Yeah, this is one that was announced 2 years ago, and I completely forgot about it until I saw this trailer for it. And it looks okay. It's not something I'm really, like, clamoring for, but yeah, I mean, if as long as it's out on Games Pass, I'll give it a whirl.
The new Fable that's coming out. You got to finally look at some gameplay action. Interested? Not interested? I mean, to me, that and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and then of course Gears, the prequel that's coming out. Those were the highlights for me.
Yeah, I think I'm kinda on the same page with you. There was one that came out, like, I mixtape looked interesting to me, like, the
Mhm.
way the animation was and the soundtrack. It kinda is giving me Stranger Things vibes, but yeah, the, Fable is cool. I loved how they alluded in the end of the game that the person who's, like, you see their glove, they made it seem like it's gonna be the hero from the former Fable games, which that could be a neat, tying between things. Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Okay, tell me if I was wrong on this. The trailer felt off to me. Not that it doesn't look good, but like the gameplay and like the speed. It's Indiana Jones, like you can tell they're trying to be like a really fast paced game, but like the speed on like the punches and stuff didn't look quite right.
Well, it still looks great to me, though. I think a lot of those writing on it. They still haven't set a date. They just said it was going to
Yeah.
be for this calendar year. But like you said, it could be one of those games that's pushed back to next year. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's ironic too that they have Troy Baker doing the voice of Indiana Jones, but he also did Nathan Drake.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see. Well, he didn't do Nathan Drake. He did Nathan Drake's brother. He's Sam.
Wait, who did Nathan Drake?
Nathan Drake? You're talking about? No, Nathan Drake's voice. Yeah, he was not Nolan North. Did
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
Troy Baker did Sam, his brother.
that's right. That's
That's why
right.
they're so friendly with each other. They've done shows and videos and podcasts
Yeah,
together and stuff like that because they
yeah.
were So I will say this though, there is much concern why they didn't hammer down a release date on that video, but I do like what I see from Indiana Jones.
Mhm.
World of Warcraft. If that comes to Xbox Games Pass, because they did show a cinematic trailer for a new The War Within. So we'll see what happens in August 2024. Do you think that's a game changer if World of Warcraft comes to Games Pass? And I can't say Games Pass in this.
Game Pass. No,
Game Pass.
honestly,
I don't know. The
it
game and
could be.
games thing has got me just like rattled.
Yeah, yeah. What do you want from us?
Exactly.
It could be. I guess. I think it's too far gone in that that franchise is too far. What do you call it? Expansive across the years that I don't think that it's wise to put it all onto Games Pass. I think it's PC, right? It's coming out on. I imagine if it's going to be a PC release, it'll be on the PC Games Pass. But uh, I like how they said this is the end, like this is the last expansion in the World of Warcraft, because then I imagine whatever they're going to do next in the Warcraft franchise will be spanned across like the Xbox console and the PCs.
Well, let's get to the heavies right now. Call of Duty Black Ops 6. They did announce for Game Pass, so that's coming up here in the not too distant future later this year. And then, of course, coming up next year, they're going back in the past for Gears 6 with Gears E-Day. Your thoughts on Gears of War coming back around with a prequel this time and a younger Marcus Phoenix, although wasn't he in jail right around E-Day?
Yeah, so if you read the books,
Which I did.
Yeah,
Astral Fields, by the way, is really good.
Yeah, he gets framed for the death of, I want to say I thought it was Dominic's brother. I thought he gets framed for his death, if I remember correctly. And then the like E-Day happens yeah, shortly. I don't remember. Because I couldn't tell if like in that trailer if that was Dom or if that was Dominic's brother.
That was Dom.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, okay, I want to talk about Call of Duty in a second. But yeah, Gears, I'm concerned, man. I'm concerned about this franchise because it's been 4 years now since Gears 5 came out. So the fact that 4 years later we're getting a prequel instead of the Gears 6 that's supposed to close off the story is making me think that they don't know what they're doing with this franchise. Like I'm stoked to go and play E-Day. Like I love that idea, and I was like stoked when I saw it, Dom. But I also think about it, Gear 6. Like what is going on here? Like why is it taking so long to get an end to this new trilogy? The only thing that I can think of is that they've created this chaotic narrative that they don't know what to do with.
Well, I'm hoping it will be good, whatever it is, and they're going to try again. Always prequels are another way for Hollywood to always lengthen these franchises out, and Gears of War E-Day is going to be just that. But before we head out, Call of Duty's Black Ops 6, which could be the game changer for a new Xbox system that is coming later this year, an all-digital version of the Xbox Series X. Your thoughts on Call of Duty Black Ops 6 coming to Xbox Game Pass? Finally got it right before we headed out.
You know what's funny is that they always advertise Call of Duty. The campaign is never like has a light shined on it. Like people don't seem to care for the campaigns that much, but they always use the campaign footage to advertise the game, which is strange to me. But yeah, I mean it looks cool. I don't think we needed a whole conference follow up on Call of Duty because Call of Duty is you get what you get from it. So But just because it will be on Games Pass, I will probably end up playing at least the
Oh,
story.
you said Games Pass.
Oh man, I'm just being rebellious now. But
There you
yeah,
go.
as for the new Xboxes, I don't understand like why the shapes are weird to me. I know they're talking about it being a circle, but maybe that was the new generation that's supposed to be coming out in 2027, I think. But yeah, I don't understand like why do they have, if they're all digital, like why produce the square ones, because the square ones are only made for the discs to be able to fit into them.
Well, we'll find out what's going on with Xbox continuously going forward. But if you have thoughts on the Xbox Showcase versus Sony State of Play versus Summer Games Fest, your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Any final thoughts, Josh? Who won so far? Again, Melinda and I will have to wrap up anything Ubisoft or anything else, Nintendo, anything else later this week. But as of now, does Xbox, despite your concerns, stand up over everything else shown?
Oh yeah,
So far?
definitely. Xbox beat Sony for sure, and they definitely beat the Summer Game Fest. I don't think
Magnetism.
I don't think Ubisoft's things don't even hold a torch to what's going on with Xbox. Nintendo could be a different story though. They could surprise us. I know we're not getting anything from Square or Capcom this year, which is strange, but yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. Will Nintendo be the torch holder this year?
We'll find out and we'll keep reporting it to you. So stay tuned to us on social media, on Pop Culture Cosmos, and always right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great